This is okay.
This one.
Nah, yeah, then this one should go back. But what's the holding? How about this one?
The media to get them
Is it okay? All right.
But I'm not trying to
Charlie, what's the situation over there? Coffee? What's the situation? We'll be answering us. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this historic meeting between the new patriotic party, the press, and the people of Ghana. A bit of time has gone, so I will plunge into business straight away. Let me introduce to you quickly the first major speaker for this meeting, the chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Jake Otanka Obechebi Lamptey.
Good afternoon. It's not high enough. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome you here and also apologize most sincerely for having kept you here in this warmth for the number of hours that you've been waiting for us. As you know, the reason why we are here, we kept saying, meant that we had to establish a cast iron case. And so we did not want to start talking to the press and talking to the friends of Ghana and Ghanaians without making absolutely sure that we had everything in place. The delay was really about getting through the registry process and filing. Why? It's a press conference. You don't play the press conference afterwards. The delay was about getting through the registry process. I'm happy to inform everybody here that suit number J1/6/13 has been duly filed at the registry of the Supreme Court. Ladies and gentlemen, today has to be one of the proudest days of my life. I was born, and in my early years, we were full of the excitement and the anticipation of wonderful things to come. We were all, even though very young, a part of the struggle to free this country of the British and allow the country to manage its own affairs, allow our people to manage their own affairs in a properly functioning democracy, a multi-party democracy that will be dedicated to the rule of law. Over the years, Ghana seemed to have lost its way. Nevertheless, so many in this country remained true to the ideals of the founding fathers, and inshallah, ultimately, we arrived at a situation with the Fourth Republic where we had the foundations, the beginnings of a proper democracy. Democracy is not just elections. A properly functioning democracy is about many institutions, the many institutions that provide the muscles and the bones and the support process to make that democracy really work. I probably will not live long enough to ensure that all the different institutions function as they should do in a really vibrant democracy. But it was and has been my hope that at least one thing I'll be able to bequeath my children is that the one single most important element, or one of the most important elements, which is a free election where everybody entitled to vote is given the opportunity to vote, and that their vote is properly counted and properly declared, would actually happen, and that my children could take on the struggle after us about building the rest of the institutions. So what is happening today makes me very proud, because I really do think we're taking a step forward towards meeting that goal which I had set myself. While we are not the first to challenge an election result in the courts, there have been numerous challenges in Ghana over election results of parliamentarians over the years. And in fact, in 2004, there was also a challenge to the presidential process by individuals. And please, it has to be individuals, because the Constitution allows for individuals to challenge and not institutions to challenge. So individuals challenged the process in 2004. So going to court is nothing new. Nevertheless, I am still very proud of the NPP that some 3 weeks ago in this very hotel, we met, the National Executive Committee of the NPP met, considered the election process that had gone on, realized that we were most unhappy with what had happened, and then decided that we would take the legal route to challenge the outcome. And in this, we were fully supported by the masses of NPP supporters, who also bought into the thing of challenging the results through the courts in a peaceful process. And even though we demonstrated, which was our right to demonstrate, all the demonstrations that we held across the country were all, inshallah, peaceful demonstrations showing support for the route that we had taken. We did not take the route of violence which other countries have taken. And for that, I'm really terrifically proud to be a part of the NPP. The challenge that we are mounting today that we're going to talk to you about is a challenge at the presidential level. But I think it's only fair to inform all those who are listening in and watching in that we are also well prepared to mount a number of challenges at the parliamentary level. And that these challenges will be going forth over the next few days as the nation comes back to work after the New Year holiday. I'm extremely proud to be the chairman of the NPP because without what the NPP foot soldiers did, we could not possibly have mounted this challenge. What the foot soldiers did was to bring in the results sheets, the ones that we call the blue sheets, hence my blue attire today, which today are the pink sheets, hence Boachi's attire today. We were able to bring in from all across the country, from the 26,000 plus polling stations, over 90% of the blue sheets that were issued at the polling stations. It was this that allowed the others, of whom I'm extremely proud, which were the analysts and the legal team. The analysts working under Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, our vice presidential candidate, to go through the numbers, think outside the box, and not be steered into the alleyways that others had prepared for us, but actually to look at everything they saw as a fresh field and be able to discern the pattern that we have to prove in the Supreme Court and the numbers that we have to prove in the Supreme Court if our case is to be successful. Inshallah, we shall see what we shall see. But you didn't come here to hear from me. You came to hear about the case. And the two best people to tell you about the case, first is going to tell you about why we are in court and what it is we hope to achieve. And then the second will take you through an overview of the evidence that we shall be bringing to support our matter in the court. The first person to speak, ladies and gentlemen, is the first plaintiff. There are three plaintiffs in the suit. I am number 3, Dr. Bawumia is number 2, and the first is Nana Akufo-Addo, our presidential candidate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, friends of Ghana, fellow Ghanaians, as our chairman has just indicated, a few minutes ago, a petition was filed at the registry of the Supreme Court challenging the validity of the result of the presidential election as declared by the Electoral Commission through its chairman on 9th December 2012. On 10th December, the chairman issued Constitutional Instrument number 80, setting out, and I quote, the Declaration of President-elect Instrument 2012, unquote, in which the NDC presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama, was declared the first round winner of the election. CI 80 was notified in the Gazette on 11th December 2012. The petitioners are three of us Ghanaian citizens. Me, Nana Akufo-Addo, the presidential NPP presidential candidate in the election, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, my running mate, and Jake Otanka Obechebilamte, chairman of the New Patriotic Party. The respondents to the petition are the president-elect, John Dramani Mahama, the person, according to the rules of the court, quote, whose election is challenged by the petition, and the Electoral Commission, whose conduct is the subject of the complaint in the petition. The case is in court officially in our names because the law requires that an election petition challenging the validity of the election of the President of the Republic should be mounted by a citizen. But this is not a personal issue. This case is not about candidate Mahama or candidate Akufo-Addo. There is a much more important issue at stake which goes to the heart of our democracy and the future of our nation. This action is being taken on behalf of the more than 5 million people that, according to the Electoral Commission, voted for me, to whom I am extremely grateful, and on behalf of all the 11 million people who stood in line patiently on December 7th, and in some cases also on December the 8th, to cast their votes, and also on behalf of all 24 million citizens, and on behalf of generations yet unborn. We of the New Patriotic Party, the party I belong to, and which I have the honor to represent in the election, trace our antecedents to the men and women who gathered in Saltpond on that fateful day of Saturday, the 4th of August. In an election, we cast votes, then the votes are counted, the count is collated, the results are announced, and formal declarations of results are made. In the entire process, we must never forget that it is the casting of the ballot that is sacred. The rest of the activities are at best administrative duties. The count, the collation, the declaration of results cannot and should not be more important than the sacred, God-given right of a citizen casting his or her ballot. There is only one principle. Elections are about those who cast the vote, not those who count, not those who supervise, not those who transmit, and not those who declare.
Thank you.
The heart of the democratic process is about those who cast the vote.
Yes.
By the afternoon of December 8th, enough reports had come into the NPP election headquarters to make us believe that the elections had been marred by lots of irregularities to undermine the credibility of the election. The party did try to alert the Electoral Commission and recommend Paul to investigate our concerns. The Electoral Commission will not listen and adopted the attitude that had always characterized their reaction to any criticism of their action. Quote, if you are dissatisfied, go to court. Unquote. It was not an easy decision for us to tell the people of Ghana that we would not accept the results of the election as declared by the chairman of the Electoral Commission. But we had to accept the responsibility of righting what, in our view, was the wrong of an invalid election. In deciding to go to court, we were well aware that we're taking on a heavy responsibility. And it turned out to be as massive a task as we had feared. The scale of what we have uncovered has surprised even the most skeptical among us. Personally, it has been a sad experience. Dr. Barumia will soon take you through the details of our findings. And if you believe in the rule of law and the sanctity of the ballot, I dare say you will also be sad. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Afraija, told everybody, no verification, no vote. So why was there such blatant disregard of the law? Dr. Afraija told us there would not and should not be more votes in the box than were ballots given out. So why were there so many stations of obvious overvoting? Dr. Afraija told us the count and collation would be open. So why were there so many instances of dubious counts? We're ready to concede that in an election that involves more than 11 million voters, there might be mistakes. But why are the arithmetic mistakes so very often in favor of the NDC presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama? We now have put our case before the court, and are also putting the case before you, the people of Ghana. We leave it for the court to judge the merits. But once again, the petitioners in this case is seeking to deepen our democracy by strengthening the institutions that are mandated by our Constitution to superintend the electoral process. One, by ensuring that the Electoral Commission is accountable to the people of Ghana. And two, the Supreme Court is seen by all as the ultimate arbiter of electoral grievances and disputes. Throughout the campaign, the elections, and this 3-week period since the elections, we have insisted and continue to insist on the peaceful conduct of all activities. And I'm proud to say that NPP supporters, in common with the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians, have behaved commendably. We in the NPP do not seek to destabilize our country. We are not revolutionaries. But we seek to ensure that the will of the Ghanaian people is upheld, and we do seek to uphold the sanctity of the ballot through peaceful, legitimate means. We have every confidence that President Mahama and the NDC would be instructed also that the right thing is done. The justices of the Supreme Court will take up their responsibilities, and by the time they make their pronouncements, we expect that Ghana would be a stronger and more credible democracy. I thank the NPP members, supporters, and volunteers for their hard work and patience. I thank especially all those who were involved in the massive blue/red sheet retrieval effort. The battle is indeed the Lord's, and we should all continue to pray. And we should all continue to pray. I thank those Ghanaian citizens who are not necessarily NPP supporters, who have urged us on to seek justice in the courts. And I thank you all for your attention. My belief in Ghana remains unshaken. May God bless us. May God bless Ghana and us all. Thank you.
Yes, can we have a bit of quiet at the back, please? Please, please, please. We have now come to probably the most important part, which is showing you the evidence. And Dr. Baumia is extremely equipped to present the evidence to you. You can put some of the stuff here. Okay. You use this mic. Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just put this one here. It's okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my task here is a simple one, and to basically walk you through some of the issues that would be pending before the Supreme Court in the petition that was filed today from our perspective. This election, as Nana Akufo-Addo has said, is really not about he or I or Jacob H.B. Lamptey, but it is about the next generation. And the results are we are contesting this in the interest of the next generation of Ghanaians and not in our personal interest. The issue about elections really is the fundamentals has to do with the voters' register. When we finished the biometric registration exercise, we were told that we had around 13 million registered voters, and that some cleaning up was to be done of this register. By the time we saw the cleaned up register in November, suddenly the electoral biometric register had increased from around 13 million that was announced at the end of the registration exercise to 14 million. Now, when you clean up, one understands that it will reduce the numbers as you find problems, inevitably. But cleaning up doesn't really mean you should up the numbers, which is what we actually saw by the time the voters' register was released in November, a few weeks before the election. Now, the figure that the Electoral Commission released was about 14,031,680. Now, this was supposed to be the figure we went into the election with. Now, on December 9th, as the Electoral Commissioner was announcing the results, he suddenly mentioned a new figure for the registered voters. And that got us wondering what had actually taken place, because the voters' register had increased suddenly from 14,031,680 to 14,158,890. Now, and this is a difference of about 127,000. I mean, who was registering between November and December? So this was really an issue that we were worried about right from hearing the numbers. And then following this, we looked at the announced results for the parliamentary election. The same EC announcing the results for the parliamentary election. And when they announce the results, they will tell you what the registered voters are for the parliamentary as well. Now, what we found out was that there was a marked discrepancy between the total registered voters for the parliamentary election and the total registered voters for the presidential election. Now, this is supposed to be one register. You don't go and register for parliamentary and finish and go and register for presidential. So, if you look at the reported registered voters for parliamentary elections, it was 14,031,642. But for presidential, 158,890. So we went through detailed constituency by constituency, the difference between the parliamentary register in that sense and the presidential register. And lo and behold, what do we find? The difference between the two is 127,000. This is what was added to the register between November and December. But somehow you are currently to the presidential side of the results. And this is the point that we are making. The development regarding the voters' register, as well as reports of irregularities from our party agents in various polling stations, initiated a process of painstaking, methodical, and deliberate investigation into the results of the election. A team was assembled, and notwithstanding the challenges that they have endured, including a police raid on where they have been doing their job, they've done an excellent job. The evidence that we have seen shows massive and pervasive irregularities in the December 2012 elections. Invariably, these irregularities tended to favor the NDC presidential candidate. The evidence, as we will see in a moment, shows that the irregularities were substantial enough to affect the outcome of the election. Interestingly, the irregularities, as I'll be explaining in a moment, were largely uncovered at the polling station level. The key to unraveling these irregularities was to follow the documentation available at the polling station level. The foundation document for this election in this regard is the polling station pink sheet, what they call the form E21B or E22B. This document turned out to be a treasure trove of information. This is the pink sheet that we are talking about. It's red behind, but when you look in front of it, it's pink because of the way it is put together and the contamination of the red there. This is the polling station pink sheet. It's a long one, but this is a sample that you will see. We've had to go through at least about 24,000 of these sheets to put this evidence together. There is a pink sheet for every polling station. Each pink sheet has a unique, or is supposed to have a unique serial number, so that you can, at identify each polling station by its unique serial number on the pin sheet. Each pin sheet is also supposed to have a unique polling station code, so that you can identify the polling station by the code also. Furthermore, each form has to be signed by the presiding officer. The presiding officer is the representative of the Electoral Commissioner, and if the presiding officer doesn't sign, the results cannot really be valid. If the EC, Afarijan, doesn't sign the presidential results, they are not deemed to be valid as well. So the presiding officers also have to sign. Interestingly, the pin sheet also has a section on indicating voting without biometric identification at particular polling stations. Now, our rationale is that this pin sheet may have been designed before IPAC actually agreed on a no verification, no vote, but this information was also available. And it includes, very importantly, it indicates the total number of ballots that are issued to voters at the polling station. Now, a close examination, therefore, of the pin sheets allows us to uncover the irregularities that we are talking about today. There are many ways to steal a vote, just as there are many ways to kill a cat. So we were looking at the many ways that were implemented to steal this vote in one way or the other. Now, if you look at the pin sheets, and I'm sure other evidence is going to come into court, but for now, we're just focusing on the pin sheets. If you look at the pin sheets, you'll be able to tell to a large extent from the information on the pin sheet whether there was overvoting. Overvoting will occur when there are more votes in the ballot box than actually ballots issued to the voters at the polling station. This is contained in a section called C1 of the pin sheet, where it indicates the total number of ballots issued to voters at the polling station. So if you count the vote, and at the end of the day, there are more ballots in the ballot box than that were issued to the voters in the polling station, then you know there is a problem. And you know those results cannot stand. Section C3 of that also tells you about voting without biometric verification. It's a very easy way to steal votes if you allow people to come in without biometric verification and actually vote. They may not be on the register at all. But we have a section, as I said, C3, which will tell many polling stations indicated the number of people who were voting without such biometric verification in violation of the no verification, no vote principle. You also have a situation where in several polling stations, the presiding officer has not signed the sheet. Maybe he or she may be worried that they are part of an exercise they do not want to append their names. But again, it questions the validity of those. What is also very interesting is that the pin sheets is supposed to have a unique serial number. But interestingly, we found different polling stations with the same serial. Now, how does that happen? How does that happen? Different polling stations, 7, with exactly the same serial. Again, that questions the validity of these results. And then you have, within these pin sheets, words and figures not matching, and therefore you cannot tell which is really being applied. Now, here, for example, is an example. This is the same serial number, 2 separate polling stations, 2 different results that are coming in. But you need uniqueness here. But this particular polling station is clearly not. So this is an example. This is also an example of overvoting. You have here on form, on the pink sheet, under column C1, ballots issued, 277 ballots were issued to voters in this polling station. Now the votes in total at the end of the day have come up to 291 for this polling station. Now, the nature of the irregularities that we've discovered from polling station to polling station is that the irregularity is in small numbers when you look at it. But when you add them up across 26,000 polling stations, you will see that it's very huge. Remember that in the last election, the difference that we needed for a first round victory was just 23,000. So one vote per polling station would have made that difference. So this may look like a small number, but in aggregate, it is quite significant. So there was really a lot of irregularity, but I think you can call it as very sophisticated irregularity. That we are seeing here. Now, you also have an example here. This is the C3, where they are telling you that in this polling station, 614 people voted without biometric identification. Now, this is actually where we have, from the pink sheet, there are a lot of instances that are going to be reported, are being reported, and we will have the evidence for where many voting took place in many places without biometric information verification, which was not necessarily captured on these pink sheets. That's a separate matter. But the law said no verification, no vote. It is that simple. But we had a situation where suddenly verification machines were breaking down all over the place, even though they had never been used before. So we created an environment for the use of these voting without verification. So in putting all of this together, this is by category. How many votes are we finding here? Overvoting now across all the 24,000 polling stations that we've looked at so far. Overvoting was 620,443. Voting without verification was 456,933. Same serial number for different polling stations, 50,278. Missing signature on the pink sheet, 208,523. And words and figures don't match, 3,841. Now, in total, these votes amount to 1,340,018. Ladies and gentlemen,
our information. Otherwise, we're doing as it. So please, just take it easy for the next 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You agree?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nanakomia. So we have 1.34 million votes in question, of which there are various irregularities associated as categories. In sum, what does this evidence show? That, and I want to add that all of this is backed by documented evidence. We essentially have a mountain of evidence from these pink sheets. Every single vote that is put here is backed by evidence. Now, by the time we finish this case, even more will come through, for sure. And you have to understand that this is not something that is being made up or from anywhere. It is actually from the documents as provided by the Electoral Commission, the foundation document for this election at the polling station. And we have all of it, at least 90% of it, and we are going to the Supreme Court with it. So the evidence shows that 1.34 million votes were identified as wrongly counted, and these are supported by the pink sheets. More important, adjusting the EC announced results to take account of these illegally counted votes will mean that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo should have been declared the This is at the heart of our case to the Supreme Court. Yes. Analysis and gathering of evidence continues, and this 1.34 million figure is likely to increase. Similar irregularities also affected the parliamentary elections, and therefore, as the chairman, Jacob Chibi Lamke, has indicated, several challenges to parliamentary election results are also in the pipeline. And I thank you all for your attention. This is really it for me.
Okay. come to the end. Can everybody just settle? Can we have some peace and quiet? Just 10 minutes. We have come to the final stage of our meeting. Now, we are aware some people may want to ask questions, that because of the tendency of the seat, the best advice we have is that we don't take questions outside the information that has been given today. So, it is a good stage to bring our meeting to a close. Let me, on behalf of the party and the plaintiffs, thank you for your attendance and attention for this meeting. And if there has to be any subsequent meetings, we will announce them to the press later. Thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of the day. We'll be meeting members of the media here. We will be media to remain seated for subsequent interaction. Thank you. I know all members of the media, please stay inside. Everybody else, please let us in the place. Thank you very much. Members of the media, please stay behind. Can everybody else make their way? Take care of everybody. And members of the diplomatic post should also please stay. We'll take the pictures and send the copies. Thank you very much. Thank you.